I tried the TK75 Pro, and you should too. Why? And you should too? Well, let's just start with the price, which is... Wait. What? This has got to be some kind of mistake. They've got to be making a mistake right now. Huh? Well, guys, it's official. Keyboards have actually just entered a race to the bottom. But wait. Now it's a good thing because the prices are cheaper and the keyboards are better, and I'm getting a little bit tired of looking at 75%. Like, seriously, why is this all anybody makes anymore? Howdy, hey, I'm Hipyo Tech, and this got me wondering, like, is this one of the best budget keyboards I've ever tried? Which, I mean, it does sound like heaven. Or are they hiding something under the hood that might make it a bit more of a scam? But either way, this has some pretty big implications, because they can't just keep getting cheaper forever, right? Right? And don't worry, because if you're new to keyboards, I'm going to be showing you why this keyboard could be perfect for you or could also not be great for you at all by using it entirely stock. And wait, are you removing all of the foam? No, please no. Now, full disclosure, this video is sponsored by Gamakay. However, they did not review this video, they did not tell me what to say, and all of my thoughts are my own. Now, because this keyboard is so cheap, there's a few things that are absolutely crucial to deciding whether or not this keyboard is good. And that's build quality, customization, usability, and does it sound and feel nice? Now, the unboxing experience is incredibly bare bones, and this might be a little bit different for you as I got an early build prototype. But it comes with a cable, which means you can use it, just like how Nola is unboxing a fly that got caught in the box. But keep those important things we're looking out for in the back of your mind. Now let's take a look at the keyboard, and whoa! My God. Now I know the pink is very pink and I personally love it, but it does come in 3 different colors. But on top of that, what's genuinely insane is how cheap it is. Right now, if you're in the US, with the coupon code that's on screen, it's $79. And international on the Gamakay website, it's $89, which is still pretty affordable. Now, lately, around $100 has become the sweet spot for fully aluminum keyboards like this one. So with it being $79 with free Amazon shipping, I started to ask some questions. But like, why is there no case ping? Now, one thing to keep in mind throughout this video is this is still fundamentally a budget keyboard. So my expectations are relatively low. Some things you give up for this price is you're not getting a fancy back weight like you do with some of the other boards that sit around $100, but you don't really notice that on the back. You're also maybe not getting a screen, but you are getting a knob. So there's definitely some sacrifices being made here, but so far, my first impressions of this build quality is it's really impressively nice. And when looking for your first keyboard, you kind of don't want to go all out for a crazy $400 or $500 keyboard because you don't know what layout preference you might want. You don't know what kind of sound preference you might want. Heck, you don't even know what height of the keyboard would be most comfortable for you to type on. Also, I love this soft touch finish. Like, this isn't exactly a luxurious finish, and some people might argue that it feels a bit cheap and tacky, but I do really like that it feels soft when you don't drop it on your hands. However, the rest of the design is very understated and very basic, although I'm not sure what else you would expect for a budget keyboard. However, if you do want to watch a video on a really crazy keyboard, then check out the one in the top right, because they can get insane, kind of like this button for turning on the wireless mode that isn't hidden under a keycap. Nice, because this board does support 2.4 gigahertz, Bluetooth, and wired modes, which is a very good touch, although honestly expected in a lot of keyboards recently. The RGB is not crazy bright, although it is existing and you can actually see that it's on, which is nice. Although I wouldn't really trust the wireless modes for gaming, as this thing is fully aluminum and maybe a bit questionable. I'm also still working on getting the hardware for testing wireless. Now, what I can test is the gasket performance on this thing, which is interestingly spotty, leading me to think that they might be going with the flex cut PCB in this thing, but we'll check that out later. And wait, why does this thing feel so nice to type on? Okay, we're gonna have to investigate that further. Now, some of you with eyes might have noticed that this thing is pre-built, and the keycaps that come included are nothing to write home about. They're double shot PVT, they look really pretty and have clean legends, but the colors are not unique whatsoever, and I've seen this many times, and also available on AliExpress for like $3 US. The one thing I would like to see at a race to the bottom is a race to the bottom making various pretty keycap sets, but I know that doesn't jive with economies of scale, and these are perfectly fine keycaps. You just only have 3 options. The stabilizers are shockingly wobbly, meaning that they might need a Band-Aid mod, which is something that I haven't even thought about needing in years. Now, I am a bit curious. Will this affect the final performance of the stabilizers? I'm not sure. Stay tuned to find out. One thing that makes this keyboard incredibly beginner-friendly is that it's hot-swappable, meaning you can just pull out the switches like that. And let's talk about the switches. These are KDT Hyacinths, an incredibly buttery smooth linear from KTT, who makes really nice switches, and they're a 45-gram linear switch, meaning that if you want a tactile bump or a click, this keyboard doesn't offer it. In fact, even if you want a heavier switch, this keyboard doesn't offer it. But considering it's hot swap, it might be a good option to get this, see if you like the switches, and then just swap them out later, considering it's cheaper than some bare bones keyboards. Personally, I'd love to see some tactile switches. I think that would be a really cool option. Just like I'd like to see you checking out my desk mats from hipyo.co. Link down below. Like, I mean, come on. Look at this pixel art springtime desk mat that's only $24.99. It beautifully matches this pink keyboard. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, Hipyo, you've said so many positive things about this keyboard. Maybe I should go out and buy it right now. Well, hold on. We're about to get into some cons. Number one being the software that I tried to use for this video, but it was stuck on initializing even if I restarted my computer, unplugged the keyboard, plugged it back in, etc. If you're someone that likes to customize your keyboard a lot with software, then you definitely want another keyboard that supports QMK or VIA. Personally, I think it's a bit of a crime that they didn't go with QMK and VIA or any other kind of better software, but that's the software side, and a lot of people just don't interact with keyboard software. So what about the inside, the hardware? Well, if you take off a bunch of keycaps, then you see a bunch of screws that let you into the keyboard using a screwdriver, like the WOW stick or the LTT one. Now, personally, I think this is a really big step backward from the magnetic clasps that we've seen on stuff like the Womier RD75. So this thing could be pretty moddable with its slightly pingy top plate. That might be a problem later, but it definitely won't be as easy as something like the Bridge 75. But what makes this so interesting is because this is a race to the bottom, this is the cheapest option. So it's kind of like a choose your own adventure of what sacrifice do you want to make and then pick that keyboard accordingly. Now, this board does support 2 mounting styles. However, they did not send me the screws to try top mount. And the included gasket is quite interesting because it's PCB gasket mounted rather than plate gasket mounted. If we investigate the inside of the case, we see a pretty hefty battery as well as just a basic inside of the case. You're not getting any fancy stainless steel internal weights or silicone pour or anything that might make this thing too expensive. However, we are getting a flex cut PCB. Remember how I said that could be a thing? There's also some very odd hot swap sockets that I've never seen before, which could be worryingly lower quality. The flex cut PCB is a bit of a bummer because it tends to make your keyboard sound a little bit thinner overall. So I'd love to imagine what this board would sound like without a flex cut PCB because it's probably quite a bit better. Now, one thing I do want to try is give you 2 different sound tests for the end of this video. So I'm going to try and remove all of the foam. I don't recommend you try prying your keyboard apart from its PCB at home, especially if it's a flex cut PCB, because you could just snap it in half. It also seems like they've put the PETG sheet on this thing, which is one thing that I'm not a personal fan of. I think it definitely amplifies your keyboard sound, makes it a little bit louder, so I'm just going to crumple it up and throw it away. But it's probably responsible for why it's so marbly and poppy. And I promise this is the last time I'll talk about foam, but there's also a plate and PE foam. If this is your first time to keyboards, I recommend playing around with some of these foams, remove some of them, put some of them back in, and just try and figure out your sound preference and feel preference, as all of these will alter that slightly. Now, I do think this is a decent beginner keyboard because it is moddable. However, it's not as easily moddable as some other things, so it might not be the best beginner keyboard. There's also some weird quirks that I had with my version. The option for top mount is really unique, and I really like that, as a lot of keyboards have kind of just forgotten that top mount exists, and I think it's a really underrated form of mounting. Now, I'll show you the sound test of before and after the foam, where this keyboard does sound pretty heavenly before and maybe not so heavenly after. But that probably leaves you wondering, should you get this keyboard? Is it a good value? Should I get X keyboard instead of this keyboard? Now, I do think this is an interesting keyboard to try because it is the lowest common denominator for pricing, at least as of making this video. However, you don't become the cheapest keyboard by not cutting corners. And that's the same thing with all of these 75% aluminum keyboards. So watch my video on all of these keyboards, determine what features you value most in a keyboard, and then get the one that you think seems the best. For example, if you really value software, then this keyboard is not for you. But if you really value having a knob, then this keyboard could be for you. But I want to know what you guys think about the keyboard race to the bottom. Is this a net positive for everyone having keyboards get cheaper, or does this just mean every keyboard is becoming the same and maybe a little bit boring?